Monday morning. Rise and shine. Good morning to you. Good morning. This is Coffee Talk. We get together 7 days a week to chat about what's going on in the world of weather. I feel like this time of year, though, is when we really need to do our thing because the tropics are getting busier and people are starting to full on freak out. I was talking to Matt this morning very briefly. He said, "Boy, the models are throwing some fun stuff at you." And I said, "I haven't looked yet." And I opened up my social media feed. I didn't even need to go looking because, as Matt had mentioned, the social media hype machine is going crazy. So let's just start Coffee Talk by checking in. Okay. We've got a tropical storm and we've got other areas of interest. Okay. Here's a look at the broad Atlantic basin. And if you remember, yesterday on Coffee Talk, the day before on Coffee Talk, I said something along the lines of the tropics are going to start to heat up. It's August. August is from August on is when we see it's like 90% or greater of the amount of named systems. That happens August, September, October, November. So we're now just really starting to get into hurricane season. First off, let's just start with Dexter. Here's Tropical Storm Dexter. And, I always say, like, I'm not going to name a system until it's named. There it is. It was named last night. Maximum sustained winds here are at 45 miles an hour. On the left side of your screen, way, way, way on the left, it is outside of the Outer Banks. So we are out in the Atlantic. You can see Bermuda there, kind of on the bottom of the screen. Convection's starting to look healthier. Dexter's looking decent. Here's a look at the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Not expected to become a hurricane, rather expected to remain a tropical storm dancing by Bermuda, miles to the north, and then eventually weakening to a depression, we think, by about Wednesday, Thursday, and then continuing out to sea from there. So Dexter is not a threat whatsoever to us or even Bermuda. Now, rip currents, rough surf, those sorts of elements, sure, those are a thing to be tracked. So yes, that's a piece of the puzzle, right? But looking beyond that, there are two other areas to monitor. The first one, just off of Florida's first coast. This is an area that we think over the next couple of days' time may develop an area of low pressure. A 0% likelihood of formation over the next 2 days' time, but a 30% chance of development over the next 7 days' time. And while the coast of Africa is quiet for now, the National Hurricane Center highlighting a wave that's just about to roll off the shoreline here in the next few days' time as having a medium 50% likelihood of tropical development. This one is something that needs to be watched. Now, most of the indication is that it develops. But what happens? Where does it develop? Where does it go? Of course, we can chime in with the raw computer models. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the basin view, the full Atlantic basin. That way we can kind of see all of the data, okay? So you've got Dexter there off the coast of the Outer Banks, rolling through. And notice Central Atlantic here, we're starting to see that development, right? Right there. Working, developing out near the Greater Antilles, kind of working in closer. This is the American GFS. That is Wednesday, August 13th, outside of the Bahamas. Winds gusting to 103 miles an hour. So we are looking at a hurricane here. Deepening. We'll switch back to wind. Let's just keep it with the winds. Winds gusting to 122 and making landfall, according to this model run, somewhere Charleston, South Carolina, is what this one model run is showing. All right, let's go back. Let's look from that's the 6Z model. Let's go to the 0Z model. Weaker, hurricane though. And that hurricane is coming into like Melbourne with winds of about 130 or so miles an hour. So that would be almost a major hurricane. That would be bad, clearly. Let's go back 2 model runs into Brevard County as borderline Cat 2, Cat 3. That would be bad. 3 model runs. Nothing. I mean, maybe like a tropical depression or something. So when you see the hype of a major hurricane into Brevard County or a major hurricane into Brevard County, understand The current run brings it in South Carolina. So what are we seeing in terms of these models versus what are we not seeing? Um, we are not seeing consistency in location. What we are seeing is an idea, and understand we're looking at hour 240. So we're looking pretty far out there. Um, we're seeing consistency in this idea that something wants to develop. Outside of that, we are not seeing consistency in location, location, location. So, should you be freaking out? No. Let me repeat it for the folks in the cheap seats. I buy the cheap seats, so it's good. We should not be freaking out. This happens for the next few months. For the next few months, we're going to be tracking the tropics. We're going to have so many areas to track. And I would say I would rather have the model. Now, for those of you that are new, I'm going to be very, very clear on this. I would love to have the model show a hit 300 hours out to us because you know it's going to change. Okay? Hype is one of those things that is going to continue to build, continue to build, and continue to build. Now, let's look at pattern recognition here for a minute, okay? Because we do look at the long range model, so we know that there's going to be a system out there. Now, notice, and I'd mentioned this, let's go back one model run. This is the 0Z. Where does that take it? To us, right? Where does the model run from 0 to C to 6C correct it to? South Carolina. So, pattern recognition. What happened about 40 something days ago? Let's think about that. What happened 40 something days ago? There was a tropical system that we were watching, happened to be the last one prior to Dexter. What was its name? Chantal was the name of the storm. The one that kind of popped up, let's see where it went, or where that part of the pattern favored. Where did Chantal go? Chantal moved into northern South Carolina. So recognizing that part of the pattern, it was not in our hurricane season forecast, but it has become an area of interest, highlighting South Carolina and North Carolina. And Jeremy and I will have to kind of go over this location, but at the moment, this is kind of where we're at. August 12th through the 15th is that next version of this part of the pattern. So again, this is not a part of our hurricane season forecast. This is something that we kind of picked up on beyond post that, and at least made mention of it. But here we are recognizing the weather pattern. Cycled through an end of May, cycled through July 4th, 5th, 6th as Chantal. The next version, August 12th through the 15th, somewhere in that timeline, moving in that general vicinity, we think. Now, is this that? Well, look at the time, look at the date. That's August 14th. It sure seems to fit. Do I want to see a big storm go there? No. But I do know via the pattern recognition, this fits what we have observed. Did we observe this preseason? No. But here we are, okay? We know Chantal moved through this area. We know that it will recycle that part of the pattern August 12th through the 15th. So this fits that part of the pattern, okay? Again, one run of one model. All right, let's go back. Let's look at the European model and let's smell what that rock is cooking. Atlantic Basin, we'll just run through time and I'll switch back over to pressure. All right, that we got it. As far as the 6Z goes, we'll roll out. Look at this. So the 6Z has something in the Central Atlantic recurving, and then another thing kind of getting into the Caribbean. And then heading for what we refer to as the hurricane graveyard of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And then whatever is left stays south of Cuba, okay, around August 19th. So it all depends on timing. Obviously, the European is showing something developing as well. Different location, different timing. That's why for the different location, right? All right, let's switch over to the Euro AI full basin view. And if you're watching, we're doing the tropics right now. We'll get to our local forecast eventually, but given the fact that the models have lit up like a Christmas tree, tropically speaking, I do feel it best to really hammer in on the tropics. All right, there goes Dexter, Central Atlantic. One wave recurves. The Euro AI. I'll bring you into a closer view. That's as far as the Euro AI goes, around the 19th. So here's where we're at. The GFS develops the forward wave and brings it more Chantal. The Euro is slower for formation, further south for location, and thus, that's, what you're looking at right there is 360 hours out. It doesn't go any further than that, right? Could this be the Chantal part of the pattern? Could this be something separate? That remains to be seen. If it's after, right? If you're looking at like what is that? That's August 19th. So you're looking at the very end of August. Could that be like the Raphael part of the pattern, the slow Gulf low part of the pattern? If it's slower and it ends up wanting to meander and work into the Gulf, that could end up being the slow Gulf low part of the pattern. Because what is that? That's August 19th. It may be too, probably not that. Either way, um, there's that. All right, let's switch over. Let's start looking at some ensembles. Love the ensembles because it really gives you an idea what the models are thinking. All right, so I'm just going to roll through and I'm going to keep it on the Caribbean view just because. All right, so there we are. This is the GFS ensemble, and this is Monday 15Z, so 11 a.m. on Monday, August 11th, so a week from today. And you see the circle in the Gulf. You see those circles out east of us. Those are multiple ensemble members basically saying something's going to be around. Now, this is inside of the GFS. So most of them notice, even though okay, so this is where ensembles are so good. Because if you just look at the GFS has it going up toward the Carolinas. Look at these multiple ensemble members. Some of them have it going into the Carolinas, some of them have it recurving, some of them have it headed toward Florida. So the idea is there's a pretty good idea that there's going to be something from about the Bahamas to Bermuda, and then after that, they just kind of spread out. So ensembling gives us kind of lifts the hood and lets us look at the system, if you will. Around August 12th or 13th, there's going to be something to track not far from us. That's my takeaway. Is it going to be at a safe distance? I would hope so. I would suspect so. But there's going to be something. All right, at least according to the GFS ensemble. Now let's back this up and let's look at that was the run that put it into South Carolina, and you can kind of see where the ensemble members take it. Let's go back and let's look at the 0Z, the run that took it toward Florida. And if you notice, some of those ensemble members were toward Florida, but a lot of them were not. So the ensembles are teaching us that just because the deterministic says Florida or South Carolina, there's not a high confidence. When you see those circles real close together, that's when you know, all right, we've got a pretty good idea where this is going. We don't have that yet. So and again, this all goes back to the hype machine that we have, right? Um, I, don't buy into any hype that you see because it's so easy to say, hey, we need to be on hurricane watch. Slow down, for goodness sake. Yukon's asking, will Tony be home from the cruise by then? He gets back next Sunday. You know what's funny is Tony and I are both off this week. Though if it does look like there's any kind of a tropical threat, I am sure I will end up working. And then the second Tony gets off the cruise ship, he would end up working. But it's too early to really be discussing that. I'm going to be enjoying my days off. He's enjoying his days off. And we'll be doing our thing. Barb says we're on a hype watch. It's true, though, man. It's so true. All right, so that's the GFS ensembles. Let's look at the Euro ensembles. All right, I'm just going to roll through. So this is the 8th. Notice the Euro Ensemble trying to bubble up a little homegrown deal here around Florida. You see that? A couple of those ensemble members trying to show something developing. That, if we switch back to the GFS, oh, wrong GFS ensemble. There's like one or two members that have something over Florida, but not like the Euro. So we may be watching around late this week for a homegrown deal. All right, something to watch. That's as far as the 6Z goes. We'll go to the 0Z. And whatever that does its thing. So that's why, seemingly, the euro is a little slower, right? Because it's got something else in our area, and we'll have to dial in whether or not that happens. But afterward, there's that clustering of stuff. And you can essentially see the euro says from the Yucatan Peninsula, the Bay of Campeche, to Florida, to the Atlantic coast. So all those circles tell you that of the 51 different members of the European ensemble, there is no consistency to where it's going to go. But there's a pretty strong signal. Something is going to be in that vicinity mid-August. All right. Now, why am I showing you all of this deep dive stuff? Because I want you to understand what we look at. I want you to understand what real meteorology uses, and a big part of it is ensembling. That doesn't mean that there's going to be 45 different hurricanes around the United States. It's 45 different models kind of laid on top, ensemble members laid on top of itself, so that we can get a broad stroke off one screen, okay? So that's kind of where we're at. Euro AI, let's reset that. Euro AI ensemble. Euro AI wanting to home grow something late this week into the weekend. And then there comes the Hornets. And it looks like there's almost two camps. You've got the faster camp and the slower camp. Either way, the idea is about the 15th through the 20th, there's going to be something in the area of the southern United States to track. And that's about as specific as we can get, honestly, right? Like we know using the cycling patterns that there is a part of the weather pattern that does favor kind of South Carolina, North Carolina. That timeline lines up to about August 12th through the 15th. If this ends up missing that time window, it may be something else. So at this point in time, I want us to focus on one major thing, which is that there is no immediate threat and the understanding that meteorology is based on modeling. It's future casting, right? It's looking ahead. So we're going to do our best to use the tools that we have, both kind of traditional and non-traditional pattern recognition along with model guidance, and we're going to go over this together. But the biggest thing I need us to understand is that if there was something rolling off the coast of Africa, you've got like a week to 2 weeks time to track it. A lot of atmospherics can change in that time frame. Models are trying to handle that, but they are but math equations, okay? So that's kind of a state of affairs right now when it comes to the tropics. All right? Questions that we may have about this. Now I'm done running my mouth. We can talk. Haiti on Facebook says, I appreciate your information. I got scared that I will be on a cruise with something popping up in sea. Cruise lines are going to do a great job of not putting their bagajillion-dollar cruise ship in a storm if they can help it. Yukon says, you're showing it because you're preparing for your Meteorology 101 class at a local college. Assistant Professor Burris. I'll drink to that. Jeannie Rowan says there's always something. There is never not a chance. Erica said so. You know, this time of year, this is the way it goes. It's just the way it is. And you can capitalize on it if you're a person that's like, I gotta have the clicks. Or you could be like me and look, I want you to join me. I want to do it on the right terms, though. So if me hyping is a way for me to get clicks, I'm not going to do it. If me earning your trust, showing you that I want to be here for you, because this is your family's safety. This is your anxiety. This is your health. I'm not going to abuse that, you know? Okay. Good morning to you, Marcia. Looks like a recurve situation, Terry says. Something may not even form. It's too early to tell. Let's watch. That's all. Shannon says, husband's birthday is the 16th. I told him I don't want the gift Mother Nature's trying to give him. Well, we'll see how that plays out, right? We'll figure it out. All right? Moving Labor Day weekend. No, it's too early, but any predictions? Rosemary, there's almost always something around on Labor Day. That's just what it is. Yeah. Kelly says they're cruise ships, and of course they're Oh, yeah, they're passengers. That's right. That's right. Jim says, I miss the rain. I respond, down in Africa. Do, 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 do. We love you, but we want merch. Jeannie Rowan. Have to do it at some point. Crystal on YouTube says, I block everyone I see hyping. I do not need any of that. I've been with you since the beginning and I'm not leaving. Well, thank you, my dear. I appreciate you. I want you to know that. Cindy says, I watch every morning. I'm a home insurance agent in Florida, so the weather this time of season is so important. Sure, right? Absolutely. Lawrence, guidance, not gospel. You know. Jane on Facebook says hurricane PTSD. Well, that's the thing. It's easy to actually freak out over this stuff. I like Oliver's mentality. Oliver says it is what it is. Prepare, grab a cigar, and hope for the best. Right? We can't change it. We can track it. We can discuss it, and understand that when you look long term, like what we do, you're going to get all of the model data, and some of it's going to end up being right, and some of it's going to end up being wrong. So that's what we do. We just track it and we talk about it. All right. Mitomika on YouTube says, in the 4 years we've lived in Central Florida, Eric has made staying knowledgeable during each hurricane season a breeze. Down with the hype train. I appreciate you. Sorry, I don't know your username on the YouTube. I apologize. Orlando says, watching from Costa Rica. Ooh, good morning. It's beautiful. Moving son to college in Boca the 15th. Hopefully no storm. Yeah, hopefully, right? Crystal. Oh, are you doing FAU off Glades Road? So beautiful. So beautiful. Chris says we need merch that lists all the elements to look for. Consistency, agreement, and ensemble cluster, right? Beverly says tracking the tropics will be busy. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Terry says we all get anxious enough over these possibilities without the hype to make it worse, right? And then you've got people that just make it worse. Not a fan of that sort of thing, right? Janice says, not freaking out here, just staying tuned to Eric. Thank you. All right. So, any questions about what we're looking at, right? Like, we know that there's stuff to develop. That's a given this time of year. Kathy on Facebook says, it's nice to have someone to trust. I have family members that cannot prepare. So, me trusting you to give me the information, actually. And I appreciate it. And I've always said, look, hype is going to get you clicks. I'm trying to get your respect. And respect, respect is one of those things you have to fight for and you have to earn and then you have to continuously earn. So I'm here and I'm going to do the best I can for you. Right? All right. At least hurricanes give us time to prepare. Chico over on YouTube says, at least hurricanes give us time to prepare versus tornadoes, on the other hand. It's true. It's true. Some crazy blank lightning in Palm Coast around 4 p.m. yesterday, Patty says. Yeah. Any hurricanes for Ohio in the models? I don't think so. No. Shauna is asking, did the new tree law kick in July 1st? I know nothing about a tree law. I know nothing about that. Janice is asking if I was flying today. I went flying last night. Probably not going to go flying today. One of the days this week, I'm going to take the boys flying. Yeah. I don't know where. I don't know where. Let's see here. Sandy, thank you, my dear. I appreciate you. Matt says, how many times did you and Jeremy say the tropics were quiet last Tuesday? We also said we knew this Tuesday would not be quiet. We said that. We said that. We knew. Well, and it's like it's funny enough. It's funny enough, but when you look at the tropical like curve, if you will, there's your peak. Like August, September, October, I'd have to look at the statistics numerically, But like, that's when you get the storms. And here we are, right? That's just the way it goes, right? Less Saharan dust, ocean temperatures getting to their peak, and the wind shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere starting to calm a bit. So it all makes sense. Yeah. Debbie, fly last night. Did you fly over Daytona? I stayed inland from Daytona. No, kind of flew like Sanford, DeLand, northbound. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Yep, yep. Back to work. Back to work. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, my friends, about the tropics. Then we can get back into our we could spend a couple of minutes and talk about our local forecast, right? Because we also have that to deal with. We haven't discussed that at all. Which, speaking of which, hold on. Burnett. Burnett. I have a tropical tracker scene for you, period. Okay. All right. Saharan Dust is the name of my new metal band. Yep. So the models don't know when this wave that is coming off now in Africa will strengthen. Remember, weaker goes south. That's why the models are all over the place. Correct. Mike Vera for the win. Weaker goes west. Stronger recurves. So when does it develop? How strong does it do? Right? You see the fun that happens here. Ah. Who's in for Tony? I don't know, David. I'm on vacation this week too. Karen says, I love coffee talk, and we love you. Left field question. How would Oh, I have no, Matt, no idea. No idea. Ah. Aaron says, with recent hurricanes in Southwest Florida, I feel everyone watches more closely now with a heightened awareness now versus those 10 plus years ago without any. I'm trying to find a silver lining in recent activity. I'm all about here's the problem with that. Then there are the hypers that are capitalizing on hype and thus misinforming, and that's where I struggle. Yeah. All right. Letting the head Mets off before the crazy starts, Taylor says. Well, hopefully the crazy doesn't start. Oh, man. Karen says, thinking I need to get more water to replenish. Never a bad idea to have your hurricane kit ready, right? Never, ever, ever a bad idea. So this must be a decent weather week if both of you are on vacation. Well, when I put my hurricane forecast out, I knew we would not be getting hit this week. And we're not getting hit this week. And Manolfi knew we weren't going to get hit this week. Thus, his cruise is good. My staycation is good. All things are good, right? All right, let's talk about our local forecast. First off, do want to point out that there are delays at Orlando International Airport. 60-minute delays because of traffic management initiatives mitigating due to weather, and that delay continues to be increasing. Right now, 23 delayed flights, which at 8:30 in the morning is a pretty significant number. It's gorgeous here in Central Florida. There's a live look if you're watching it on the live stream over to Disney Springs. Our first warning live Doppler radar is quiet, but let's head to the north and let's pop up the Jacksonville radar. And you can see up around Tallahassee, there's some storms. Let's actually switch over to the Tallahassee. I know I've got you in here. I know I've got you in here. Somewhere, somewhere. There we go. All right, there's the Tallahassee radar. So there's the reason for the flight delays to Orlando International Airport. Some nasty storms working from Panama City to Apalachicola. Strong storm there over near Apalachicola, but not for us. All right, temperatures out the door in the 80s now. Say 12-hour forecast. That works. Building to a 50% coverage of storms. We do get to 95 degrees this afternoon. It is going to be a nice and hot afternoon. When we track Futurecast, we start gorgeous. There's that West Coast sea breeze starting, and boom goes the dynamite. Cata bling, cata bloom. Another later start. So there's 5 o'clock with some storms bubbling up, 6, 7 widespread storms, 8, 9, right? 10 o'clock, storms around, and then starting to fade a little bit, right? So we've got a nice pattern getting into more and more storm activity. 50 to 60% coverage of activity these next 7 days' time, including this weekend. Um, but of course, we'll be needing to watch the tropics. So yeah. All right. Sound good? Tanya says, driving so everyone have a great day. Yes, caught a red light. Okay, that's good. Just be safe. That's all I ask. Just be safe. Debbie says, oh no, delays at MCO. Nikki is flying in. Uh-oh. Spaghetti. Chance, I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told. Eric doesn't hype you. Oh, geez. The ghosted woman. You're a goober. So funny. So funny. Evelyn, band football camp forecast. Hot. Back to you. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, listen. I'll be posting the reels to make sure everybody's up to date on the tropics. For now, nothing to worry about. Do not worry. Feel free to tell your friends. Do not worry. And if anybody has interest in the tropics, if you hear your friends talking about the hype, well, I heard that, tracking Theodore said it was going to be a Cat 6. You can share Coffee Talk with them. Should that be an interest to you? Let's just keep everybody to calm the down. Calm the heck down, right? Hurricane season can be scary, and I want to be the voice of reason, okay? Rose says, thank you for keeping us posted during your vacation. I got you. I got you. We're going to get through any storm threat together. Look, I'm on vacation, but you know what? I deeply, deeply feel a love for my job, and it's not a job to me. I feel this honor that I get to talk weather with y'all. So this is just me having fun on a morning. I mean, I don't know what the heck I'm gonna get my kids into today, but yeah, we'll figure something out. We're gonna have some fun. Everyone buy all the water now so Panic Fool's getting on. Well, don't even buy. You don't even have to. Just fill the jugs. Fill your milk jug after it's milk. I'm gonna have to microwave the rest of my coffee. Nobody likes it cold unless it's supposed to be cold. But I digress. All right, my friends, I'll post a reel later today. All that fun stuff. In the meantime, be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you for hanging out for Coffee Talk. I'll see y'all